Hey everyone, Friedemann Findeisen here from Holistic Songwriting. Welcome back to part 3 of our walkthrough of the escape room. This is going to be the last part where we talk about the last 3 puzzles. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, you can check those out up here. And if you want to try to beat this escape room yourself, you can check out the link in the description. It's still online. It's free. There's a donate button for PayPal, but I don't make any money from it. You don't have to sign up anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You can just play it and enjoy it. That's really what I created it for. And to obviously promote my album, which is Subface by my project Canohead. If you're into Korn, Deftones, those kind of bands, I think you're really going to enjoy it. Go check it out on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube, and all the other platforms. Okay, but let's go. Here is level 7. This one is called Dead or Not. So here's the clues that I gave on this one. The first line goes ESE. The second to last line goes far W, whatever that may mean. Then we have drawing the animal is just the first step. Did I give another tip? I did. Bigger dots mark the beginning of something new. So that was the 3 tips I gave on this one. And this was a real tough one. A lot of people really struggled with this one. I think because, well, I think it's fairly obvious that the dots have to be connected in some way, right? And some people really struggled with connecting it in the correct way. Although I think if you see the correct solution, it's really the most obvious way of connecting these dots. I think that should be fairly clear. Okay, so which one are we going to start with? Let's start with the following clue. The first line goes ESE, which is east, south, east, right? The second line goes far west. So that tells us how to connect the first couple of dots. And one of the things I also clarified in the comments was that S and E themselves are also considered dots. Okay, so S obviously refers to start, and E refers to end, as some of you figured out fairly quickly. So if we take that into consideration, that gives us the following connection points for the finished painting. And Dead or Not here helps us a little bit figuring out that this is supposed to be your cat, because Dead or Not obviously refers to Schrodinger's cat. And so, it gives us a little bit of a hint as to what we're trying to draw here. So once we've created this, a lot of people tried typing in Schrödinger or cat or kitten or stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's not the right solution. So there must be another step to this. And there is. So if we take this painting, here's the second step, which I think is really quite cool. There is a certain code to this. Now, how could we turn this into a code? Well, I gave the other tip that was bigger dots mark the beginning of something new. So as you can see, some of the dots here in this painting are a little bit bigger than others. And so, if we think about this for a while, it might mean that each connection from dot to dot, starting with the big dots, refers to one letter in the final solution. And that's exactly what it is. So here I'm going to tell you the answer. What we're actually looking at is Morse. And what's important here is the distance between the individual dots, right? So relatively to one another. So here, for example, in the first, starting with the S, looking at that, that's a long one, right? Then we have a short, long, short. So that would correspond to a C. So the first letter is a C. Then for the second letter, again, starting with that big dot here, it goes short, long, short, short. So that would be an L. And then we get short, short, long, which is a U. And that gives us, the third letter. And then we continue like this, and that gives us the answer, which is clustering illusion. That's level 7, Dead or Not. Level 8. This one is called It Ends Here. This one, fairly simple. I think most people blasted through this one. And I knew that this one was going to be not too difficult, but I just really like it. And it requires a little bit more work that you put into it to solve it, which is why I didn't put it at the start of the puzzles. In terms of difficulty, this is definitely one of the easier ones, but it's a fun one. It just requires a little bit of work. If you want to solve this one yourself, I think it's a very rewarding solve if you do. So if you want, try it yourself right now. Here is the hints that I gave on this one. It was really just the URL. It ends here. I didn't give any other hints. I think most of you just really solved this one really, really quickly. Well, If you don't know what this means, you would probably type in E4, E5 into Google, and you'd quickly find out that this is about chess, and that this, what you're seeing here, is actually chess notation. If you are already a chess player, obviously you'd see this really quickly. Basically, if we have, for example, E4, E5, that means since white always starts, it means white moves a pawn to E4. If there's no notation for which piece we're moving, it's automatically a pawn, right? That's the standard piece, so there's no sign for that. So we move a pawn to E4, and then black moves a pawn to E5. That's the first move. Then the second line here says NF3 and C6. That means moving a knight, N is short for knight, moving a knight to F3, that's white, and then black moves a knight to C6. And so if we do that, if we go through that, we actually have to play an entire chess match here. And there's software on the internet where you can try this out and play this match against yourself. And when we do that, we eventually end up in this situation, right? That's the end of all the clues that you're given. So what has to happen next here? So right now, there's a pawn who is, we're really close to checkmate, right? In G4, we have the white king who's being threatened by a pawn in H5. So the king has to move. There's no question. That has to happen. Or we have to kill the pawn, but there's no way to take that piece. So the king has to move. He can't move to F4 because it would be taken by the rook. He can't move to G5 for the same reason. He can't move to G3 or H4 because of the bishop. So the only place the king can move is actually H3, right here. And that's the first half of the solution. The second half of the solution is what black does to force the end of the game, which is the only logical move. There's only one place that, one move black can make to corner white, and that is moving the rook down here to F3. And if you, at this point, know chess notation, that will be R rook to F3. And that's the correct solution. KH3, RF3. And that's level 8. Next, we have level 9. Again, a very easy one. I wanted people to kind of have a couple of lighter ones before they get to the really tough ones at the end. This one is a fun one. Again, if you want to try it out, it's not too difficult. Most people will probably see it very quickly, but I think it's just a fun one. So with this one, did I give some tips? I think I did. Braylon was the only one. The URL is the only tip that I really gave people, and it was enough for people to solve it. So all we have is these tiles, squares with numbers in them, and it was enough for people to immediately figure out what they're displaying. So Braylon is actually a term from Scrabble, and that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at Scrabble pieces, okay? And the numbers, as you know, in Scrabble, show you how many points they're worth and how rare the pieces are. So the higher the number, the rarer the piece. And if we do a quick Google search, we'll actually find out very quickly, or look at this picture here, that for these rarities, 8, 1, 10, 10, 4, there's only a few letters that we could use. For 8, there's only 2 letters, J and X. 1 only has, well, 1 has a couple. There's 10 different versions for 1. For 10, there's only Q's and Z's. And for the 4, there's 5 different answers. And we can narrow those down, if we just think about that logically, really easily. So for the first one, this can really only be a J, because there's not a lot of words that start with an X. Even if it was a word that started with an X, it would have to have 2 Q's or 2 Z's or a combination of those two. So it's probably not going to be an X. So I'm pretty confident in saying that this is probably a J. For the second one, we don't really know. It's just too many options right now. But for the third and fourth, we can definitely say that that's going to be 2 Z's. It couldn't be QZ. It couldn't be ZQ because we don't have a U on the last letter. So it has to be 2 Z's. That's really the only way this could be solved. And for the last one, well, if after 2 Z's, we won't have an F, H, V, or W, it has to be a Y, which leaves really only one option for us for, well, there's another option, which I'm not going to discuss, but there's a clearly obvious answer for the second letter, which means it has to be an A. And since a lot of these puzzles are connected to my life somehow. I am a gamer, so that's why Scrabble, but also I studied jazz music for a long time, and so that's why we get that A here. Jazzy is the correct solution. That was level number 9, Braylon. Before we end this video, just a few words about the people I made Subface with, who I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much, Mako Maya, for playing the drums on the record. So happy with how that turned out. Charlie Berezanski did an amazing job on the mixing. Everyone says it's just a fantastic mix, and I couldn't agree more. It's just more than I ever could have hoped for. And just from the start, it was just a great collaboration on this. Glenn Schick for the mastering, Niklas here on the programming for the website, for the escape room. Thanks so much for that. That was a lot of work. So, thanks so much for that, Niklas. Bado Fatemi for all the artwork of the album itself and for the escape room. So thanks so much, folks. It couldn't have happened without you.